Ms. Alma? Good evening. This is the January 10th, 2024 meeting of the Board of Directors for the Escambia Children's Trust. Please turn off all cell phones or place them on silent for the duration of the meeting. If anyone has public comments, please complete a public comment form, which can be found on the table to the left of the podium, and turn it in to Ms. Ellis. Ms. Ellis, please proceed with roll call.
Ms. Woods,
Present.
Mr. Williams, Mr. Peden,
Here.
Dr. Northup,
Here.
Mr. Leonard,
Present.
Ms. Kane,
Present.
Commissioner May, Ms. White,
Here.
Judge Harris.
Here.
Thank you.
Mr. Williams just walked in.
Thank you. Mr. Leonard, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Did everyone have a moment to review the agenda? If not, please, if so, can I please have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Agenda has been approved. Approval of minutes. Next, we have approval of the minutes. The staff recommends the board approve the minutes from the December 12, 2023 Board meeting as presented.
So move. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We have another board minute. Staff recommends the board approve the minutes from the 2020 special board meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes have been approved. We are moving on to the treasurer's report. Mr. Peden,
Thank you, Madam Chair.
thank you.
In your packet, you'll see your financial statement. This information is online. It's also broken out in your packet. It has the financial highlights on the back of the first page. As usual, there's no unusual or abnormal transactions conducted during the month. If there's any questions that you've had a chance to review for myself or for Ms. Abrams, we'll be glad to entertain them. If not, we will hold it for audit coming up. Hearing none. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the election of the 2024 board officers. Our bylaws call for annual elections. The bylaws also state that an individual may be elected to one additional consecutive term. Each current officer, myself, Mr. Peden, and Mr. Williams have held our current position for 1 year. The board can keep the current chair, vice chair, and treasurer as they are, or we can elect new officers. I will open the floor for discussion at this time.
Question,
Yes, sir.
would the current board members who are serving in said capacity be willing to serve for a second round, if so requested?
Mr. Peter?
Does anybody want to take the finance chair? Anybody?
Chair, vice chair, and treasurer are the three ones that have to be elected annually. And the bylaw says what? That they can serve one additional consecutive term.
I have a question. Is it for just, every position is for 1 year or 2 year terms? How long?
They're a 2-year term and re-elected annually.
Okay.
So is there anybody volunteering? No, look, hey, Mr. Peden, you ain't volunteering for nothing? I was gonna vote for you for chair, man. You won't.
I would move that we simply re-elect the current officers, particularly in light of the transition that the board as itself and the organization as itself are going through in regards to the new executive director. and it to be changing horses midstream, as it were, may be a little daunting at this point, so that would be my suggestion.
So are you making a,
As I move, yes, I move that we would simply re-elect the current officers for the additional term, as I said, assuming that those are all willing to do so if elected.
you're making a motion for chair, vice chair, and treasurer?
Can you list the officers again of the positions?
Sure. Tori Woods is chair, Mr. Williams is vice chair, and Mr. Peden is treasurer.
And who's personnel?
I'm personnel chair.
Your personnel?
I'll second the motion.
Discussion? Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Congratulations, gentlemen. Whew.
Madam
Okay.
Chair,
Yes, sir.
this is on the same subject, but a little bit kinda on the same subject. What would I need to do, or other members of this committee need to do, if they wanted to be on different committees instead of the one they currently serve on?
Ms. Alma?
So they would just have to talk to the chair, and then she can appoint, reappoint, remove, change, anything like that. I do have a list of those committees, if you want to run through those.
I would like to volunteer to be removed from the program committee
Yes, sir.
and placed on the personnel committee. That's where my experience lies, and I think it would be better for me and more beneficial to the trust.
Thank you.
Madam Council, isn't it the discretion of the chair to assign committees?
Okay. No problem. I'm the personnel chair. Thank you. At this time, the floor is open for public comments. Do we have any public comment regarding action items?
I'm sorry, Tori, was that an official appointment?
Yes, ma'am. I'm officially appointing him to personnel. Yes, sir. Would anybody like to? I know you're the programs chair, Mr. Did you want to appoint anybody else to the programs committee?
No, unless someone wants to volunteer. I'm happy.
Okay. At this time, the floor is open for public comment. Do we have any public comments regarding the action items? There is a 3-minute max, and Ms. Alma will start the timer. No public comment. Moving on to business. We now move on to the business portion of the meeting. Up first is programs. Mr. Cooper, Dr. Cooper has a recommendation.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take it. During the past year, we have listened as we run into issues with our contract with our out-of-school time providers. We have listened to the board on what they have asked for to us to add to this contract. So you're going to see 2 copies. One's a clean copy and one's a marked-up copy in there. We have added several things in there that you guys have requested: the anti-nepotism policy, no overtime pay, defining a 40-hour work week, penalties for late filings of reimbursements, and, the clawback clause. So if we find that we're reimbursing for things that are not covered by the scope of work, that we can claw back. Return of supplies and equipment at the end of the contract, if the contract is terminated. And a sustainability plan to be developed by each provider. So those, and it says in here too, for no reimbursements to be issued if quarterly reports are past due. So there are a lot of different changes in here, and they are based off of what we've heard and what we've heard from you guys in the past year. So they're all in there in red. If you have any questions, take them.
The only question that I had was a $500 penalty. Has that always been there, or is that something that's new as well?
That is new. That is based off of the other CSC's contracts. They have that built in, and we did not have that in the past.
Is it just simply a holdback, or you,
It's a holdback from what they're putting in for the reimbursement.
okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tammy. Is there a motion to approve the new contract with the corrections or additional information?
So moved.
May I have a second? Any discussion? No discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The new draft passes. Now on to operations. Under operations, the Personnel Committee recommends the approval of the Executive Director contract as presented. You should have a copy of this. May I have a motion to approve?
So move.
A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any discussion?
Yeah, I'm going to go on record in saying that I certainly support Executive Director, in my opinion, being a steward of tax dollars. Quite frankly, in my opinion, you advertise the position, what you advertise it for, and that's what you pay. And so I'll certainly support, the wishes of this board, but I can't, in good faith, hold all of these administrative costs that I've sat here and said that we spent so much money on executive salaries, and we spent so much money on administrations, and we moved the bar upon increasing it. I mean, it's a minimal amount, but the amount is not the substance of what we've told taxpayers, and so that's unfortunate. I would have hoped that we would have paid the amount that we advertised, and we did not advertise that amount. And so, just for the record, I don't agree with moving the amount.
I also, I don't know if I know everyone has a copy of this, and in her reply back, she also is declining health coverage, which also exceeds that $5,000, correct? So if we were paying for her health care, we would exceed even with the 125.
That makes a lot more sense.
Yes, sir.
I have a few comments to make. Actually, a written out comment. But as you all know, I was on the committee that approved Ms. Cannon's contract, and I want to say a few comments as to why I approved the contract. First, I want to address some common misconceptions that I've heard in the public recently. Members of the trust board, and I'm going to speak for all of us because I believe this is all true, are all aware that we are dealing with taxpayer money. We all receive the tax bill that comes to our houses every single year. And I know that I look at the costs and vow to do my best with our money to help the kids in our community. It's my money that I work hard for too, and I want to make sure that we do the best with our money. I'm aware that there is resistance to the trust in our community. Some see it as just a government agency, just to get government jobs and high-paying executive salaries. But for those that are against the trust, I do agree with that. This is another quasi-governmental agency, and yes, we do have to pay people to run the trust. But don't we want qualified people to manage our funds and to manage the programs? I would encourage all those who are against the trust and those who sit up here to also go visit the sites that your taxpayer money funds. I did that this week, and I know that Mr. Williams and Ms. Tori Woods also went to visit the same organization. I was so impressed. I'm proud of our community for investing in your children. And the money that we are investing in these programs will have lasting effects. Will we see the results next month? No. We will see them in 6 months, maybe, but will we see them in a year? Yes, and in 5 years, definitely. So go visit those organizations that your money is going to, and you'll be proud. Second, running an organization with an annual budget over $10 million takes skill and leadership. I believe the past few years have shown us that the trust cannot just employ anyone to be our executive director. Your executive director needs experience in managing a budget of $10 million or more. Our executive director needs experience in managing a staff. Our executive director needs experience in the child welfare area to know which programs are working and which ones are not. And they need experience in funding sources so we can leverage our money. And we found that person in Lindsay Cannon. And even more than the items listed above, she has a proven track record of executing programs that work with results, the Navigator program, and 3 community partnership schools. So I completely understand, though, the negative perception that has occurred over this contract negotiation. But let's remember that it was a contract negotiation. And I will take the blame because I did not realize that the job description that was posted listed a salary on it. She had every right to go in and negotiate a contract. And what you may not be aware was this is the same salary that was offered to our executive director in 2021. We're all aware that the cost of inflation has skyrocketed and COLA has increased as well. So a few other points as to why we approved the contract. The salary that we budgeted for was more than she requested. While it only applies to this year, she is not using the budgeted $7,500 for moving expenses. She is not opting into health benefits of over $6,000. This is less than what other CSCs in the states receive, specifically Leon County, which is comparable to ours. And number 5, this salary is actually less than other nonprofits in our area with budgets the same size. So I hope you can understand the reasoning behind the contract. We're doing the best with the money that we've been given, and I'm excited about hopefully moving into the future of the trust.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
and some of the person that spoke, and certainly Lindsay's a dear friend of mine, so I mean, I'm not going to get caught up in that. But what I am going to get caught up in is I see a superintendent and a school board member that represents District 3. And the backs of this tax was raised on the children of District 3, black and brown children. Then a result just came out and there's been no improvement. So we've taken in $30 million and the improvement of the lives of these children has not improved. And I'm not saying we do it overnight. I'm saying that we got to be accountable. We got to be accountable to the taxpayers, and we have to be true to what we put on paper. And on paper was to go in those pockets of poverty, was to go into those underserved schools, was to go into those at-risk children and give them the resources that they need. And this was not an economic development tax. It was not a jobs improvement tax. It was a tax that improved the quality of lives of children. And so I stand accountable because, quite frankly, I failed the children if we don't improve their lives. And so we can sit and have all these conversations, you know, increasing staff, increasing salaries, but at the end of the day, the children that I represent, the people that vote for me, their lives have not improved because of $30 million. And I will continue to stand on that, whether I'm a 4-1 vote or I'm not 4-1, 10-1 or whatever. I think that we have to be about the business of children. That's what we have to be about, is helping our children in our community. Our children have failed. We've had so many programs, Bridges of Poverty, Community Impact, Broken Glass, Achieve Escambia. I mean, we've had all those programs, and our children are still failing. And so when I say that, Stephen, I respect everything that you're saying, and I support it. Hey, listen, I'm going to be very supportive of whoever we bring in our staff, but we have to be conscientious of what's really happened to our children, and our children are failing. These are the children that when you go to Oakwood Terrace and we give them toys and food, but the lights are turned off, I think that we have to look at our mission, our scope, and what we do to improve the lives of children. So you'll find my support, but I'm telling you, I will not be silenced about what's happening to our children, because the only voice that the children, black and brown children, have in District 3 at these schools are the people that sit on this board. And if I'm the Lone Ranger advocating for them, so be it. It may not be politically correct. I'm going to continue to advocate for those children because we are failing those children, even with resources. Money is not the answer.
Oakwood
so-
Terrace is Wise Elementary, right?
Absolutely. CA is doing great.
Wise is.
Commissioner, I totally agree with everything
so-
you're saying. I believe everything you're 100% saying.
Yeah. No, so we're good. No, but I just had to put that on the record. I mean, so I get that it's Wise, Toy, but we got 6 schools that are failing in District 3. I don't represent 1, 2, 4, and 5. I represent 3.
I understand.
That's who I represent. That's who votes for me.
I was thinking when she was speaking, when she said about experience, CA Wise is one of the schools that Lindsay, spearheaded with one of the grants, and I know they had a solid C, almost B, and I frequent that school.
One of the biggest supporters of CAYs is Lumen May. Sidewalks, toys. I mean, I'm a big supporter of CAYs.
And that, I guess my reason for asking is that school is one of the schools that has improved in their reading scores.
Absolutely, and we're very proud of them.
Because of our program, our after-school program that we continue to fund because they lost that funding. So that was my reason for asking. So any more discussion on the contract negotiation approval?
Yeah, I've got it.
Yes, sir.
Just a question. That is the minimum that she's requesting and will accept? Is there another total that she would entertain? I wasn't in the negotiation, so I don't know.
That was the minimum she was retaining. She's actually, her current salary is 137, so she's taking a decrease in salary as well.
Well, and evidently she didn't know the pay before applying.
During the application process, she did ask if the salary was negotiable, and she was told yes.
Yeah. And I just say this, I've been in a lot of interviews and hired a lot of people, and I've always advised them to count the cost before they apply for the position. And my sentiments are the same as Commissioner May. I want to see results. Very concerned with Lincoln Park, Montclair, and Global, and Inslee. Meet with those principals. So I just want us to stay focused and make sure that we're doing what's best. If our executive director is the one that can lead us in that direction, I'm all for it. But just want to go on record, I am concerned as well.
Mr. Peden?
Yeah, so I look at this more on principle. And when you apply for a job, you see the salary, and this was advertised at 120. That was the highest range, and she knew that applying for this job. At no time during the interview process, when we interviewed her that day, and we said, do you have any questions for us? She had questions, but it wasn't about the salary. She never brought it up to the committee that interviewed her that she needed to have more money. So when I met with her, Carolyn Appleyard had told me before we interviewed her that she asked is there more money to be made at 125 and so I asked Lindsay, I said, why did you apply for a job that you're going to not make the same amount of money? And her response was, well, she feels like it was a calling for her and that she would apply the first time, but she had the family health issues and this was the right fit for her. And I told her that day, looked her in the eye and said, I can't support anything over 120. And I said, but I'm one vote. You can do what you need to do. I'm disappointed that this was the leading story on Channel 3 News that caused more negativity towards this board and this trust. I was in a restaurant last week and there were some retirees around a table and I overheard a few things and it was from politics and this, that, and the other. And then my ears perked up when I heard she already wants a raise before she even started. So no matter what the truth is, the perception out there isn't great. And I would like to see somebody come in, take the job, do a good job, and then 12 months from now, be evaluated and possibly have a raise. But I don't see that if we would have advertised this job at 125, maybe we had a different pool of candidates. We won't know that. But I think that she understood what it was walking in from the get-go when it was advertised 120. And I just don't, I can't, like I told her, I can't be supportive of that salary increase at this time.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
I agree with many of these comments that have been stated up here. I would like to reflect on the fact that I think that every member of this board is serving on this board because we have concerns for the children of Escambia County, regardless of what district they reside in or the color of their skin or anything else. I think it was WAR again, and I was one that they interviewed by FaceTime things, but part of the comments that were chosen to be presented were a bit out of context, but be that as it may, the thing that really disheartened me was that they reported, I think within 48 hours of this story on the board, they reported Escambia County as a whole standing within the state for children's well-being had decreased from number 51 in the state to somewhere around 59, 60, somewhere in that area. Showing that across the board, Escambia County's children had showed a diminution in their standings and their quality of lives and their outcomes by a number of different variables that were looked at. Our neighbor to the immediate east of us, i.e. Santa Rosa County and several others, had actually increased and improved considerably over their standings, where they were within low double digits or even single digits standing within the state as far as their children's well-being and outcomes and things. So I think the purpose of this board and this organization remains unchanged and is exactly summarized by the commissioner and by others up here, Mr. Leonard and others, that we all have work to do on behalf of all children. The fact that we can only conduct business because of the sunshine laws and other variables that are beyond our extent within this board means that we have to have an individual who on a daily basis is able to meet the needs and carry out the policies and programs of this board. And then I think it's imperative that we do that, and that this change that she is requesting in salary being offset by over $1,000 from the health benefits that she is foregoing, the moving expenses that at least for this next year will be offset or nothing at all. The health benefits she is foregoing are maintained over time, and is something that more than offsets the increase that she is looking for. The fact that her position is in the first quartile across the state of all other executive directors of similar children's trust also, again, points back to even at the raise, we're providing as this board basically, as I look at it, a minimal salary comparative to what other executive directors are receiving. And I think it's those types of things that have long reflected on perhaps why our children are in the situation they're in. We're not willing to put forth the resources and all that are needed there. I spent a career, as I know many of you have, 37 years looking after the children, not only of this county, but throughout the region. And I think that my commitment to the benefit and the improvements of these children speaks for itself as well. So I was in favor of this raise. I remain in favor of this raise because I think Ms. Cannon is an exemplary individual to be serving as the executive director of this organization. And yes, I've heard everything else that my colleagues here have mentioned. I understand where they're coming from. Again, this was looked at as a contract negotiation, and that is one of the things. She is simply asking for this as someone would in a negotiation. I think to go into it and say, well, you can negotiate, but you really can't, defeats the purpose of a negotiation as such.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And Dr. North, I would only respond because you called my name out. It was not a contract negotiation, and that's just untrue. But I mean, it was a set salary. But $5,000, and you're right, in the scheme of where our budget is, that's something. But in the scheme of this, $5,000 mean a lot to children that are being fed. And this is not about our executive director for my ethical or position. It's about that I looked at the amount of money that we spend on executive salaries versus the amount of money that we spend on food and taking care of children, and the amount of children that I went throughout Christmas holidays who had nothing, and what $5,000, $10,000, $2,000 would have made any difference of their lives. And so when you say for all children, we can spread ourselves too thin. You know, absolutely, this is a trust for all children. We can't be all things to all people. And so I'm going to be very supportive. I mean, no, I tell you what, any executive director that turns this ship around, I'm going to tell you what, it's going to be more than a $5,000 bonus. I'm going to be the biggest advocate for them and telling them that, you know what, they need a 10 or 15% raise. But certainly I am responsible to the taxpayers, and so to those who are watching, they recognize $5,000 is a lot of money to someone who's poor, but more importantly to an Avalon tax watcher who thinks that we are spending more money on salaries than we're spending on children. I'm responsible to them as well. And so we can talk about all we want, all children. All children are not suffering. All children are not suffering. And so we can say we're going to give money to all children. The children who have the greatest needs are these kids who are living in the pockets of poverty, the kids that we've done the assessment for, the very kids that we put on collateral material and mailed it out And quite frankly, look at the collateral material when it was passed. It was black and brown children that you passed out and said that they were in the pockets of poverty at Lincoln Park, they were at Montclair, they were at Global, and let's pass this tax to help them. So, I mean, I take issue when we say, well, we're gonna help. You can't help everybody. I don't care what tax it is. And so we should go where the greatest need is. And quite frankly, I'm looking forward to the new executive director to go in those pockets of poverty and go into those greatest needs and address those issues. We will never solve homelessness, we'll never solve poverty, but we can start by helping where the greatest need is. And the greatest need is not spreading things out or finding somebody that's going to be, nice to everybody. The need is, the evidence is there. We rank 56 out of 67. And when you say our neighbors to the east of us, they're 6 and they're 14. And they don't have a children's trust tax. They don't. And so the reality of it, we have a tax, we have the funding, and all of our neighbors to the east of us are doing better than us. And if we want our children to be great, if we want to say the great state of Florida and the great state of Escambia County, we got to help them be great. And that's not in a derogatory nature, but when it's referred back to me about all children or targeted children, I believe we got to help every child in Escambia County. But I recognize that I have to target those children who have the greatest needs, build them up, and then I spread those resources to other kids. So, Madam Chair, thank you. I won't go any further, but I just wanted to put that. That's not really a part of the discussion, but thank you. I wanted to have that conversation because I know people particularly say that I refer to those kids in District 3, but you know what? I was the only elected official in Escambia County that put his name on a tax increase. And if I'm going to put my name on a tax increase, I am going to advocate very, very, very strong that the taxes go to where we said that they were going to go. So thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other discussion? No more discussion? So we are voting to approve the executive director contract as presented. We have a motion, a second discussion. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
So the contract is approved. We are moving to the next agenda item, which is
Can I
the,
get a roll call vote?
oh, yes, ma'am. Sorry.
Ms. Woods?
Yes.
Mr. Williams?
No.
Mr. Peden?
Nay.
Dr. Northup?
Yes.
Mr. Leonard?
Yes.
Ms. Kane?
Yes.
Commissioner May?
No.
Ms. White? Judge Harris?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the interim executive's report. Ms. Abram?
Okay, so I did not prepare a report for this month. Mr. Mike here is going to do a presentation on the annual conference that they went to down in Orlando in December. But before that, I wanted to let you guys know I did file today an update on all of our ethics reports. I had to put in your guys' email addresses, and they're going to be sending you the disclosures by email this year. So they have to be done electronically. So keep that in your, keep your eye open. I did use the emails that we use to communicate with you instead of just the trust emails. Okay? Thank you. And Mr. Mike, here you go.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. In December 13th through 15th, Dr. Krupa, Richard, and I, we went down to Orlando, Florida, and we attended the Florida Alliance of Children Councils and Trust Conference. And this conference was very refreshing, and I don't mean refreshing by the weather that was down there because it was quite cold. But I mean, it was refreshing because we had other trusts from all over the state, and we were able to connect with them and be able to see how they are successful, you know, being successful with 20 plus years of experience. And it was just refreshing to be able to hear that from our colleagues. So this is some of the stuff that we did while we were down in Orlando. Dr. Krupa, she led an Escambia Bright Spot session, which was a general session for the entire conference. And she told them, you know, the success that we've had in just 9 short months. I was able to serve as the official photographer for the conference, and Rick, he led a SAMIS Affinity Group knowledge session. And what an affinity group is, it's where whatever area that you work in, you will connect with other colleagues from across the state. And I know in my communications affinity group, we meet once every month and we share ideas, share branding and marketing materials and stuff that we are doing in our county. And this is an excerpt from Dr. Krupa's presentation, and it was titled, From 0 to 60 in Under a Year, Using Evidence and Expertise from the Field to Build the Escambia Children's Trust Theory of Change. And I don't have her entire presentation, but I pulled a few slides just to show you and tell you how she broke it down for all of the other trusts. So by the numbers, at the time in December, we had 28 contracts executed in the past 9 months, and we had 4 investment areas tied to our needs assessment. Right now, we have $9.4 million dedicated to our providers. And we also have a family resource guide, which we are in the works, creating our 2024 resource guide right now. And last year, we had the help of Broward County, who helped us publish, but now we have our own to look at as a guide. So we are growing in that area. And as you know, we have our strategic plan that launched in October, and with the addition of our executive director, we will now have a total of 7 staff members. On to our youth mental health RFP, we have 5 contracts executed, and theme 4 is children have supports to help them avoid risky behaviors. And with this RFP, we've dedicated $2 million. And this is how she closed out her presentation. Looking ahead, what's new for Escambia Children's Trust? We've voted in a new executive director. We have our implementation plan with our strategic plan. And we're moving from basic accountability to continuous quality improvement and more systems work. And as we move on, these are just a few pictures that I captured at the conference. That is our wonderful Dr. Krupa giving the presentation that you all just saw. I'm just gonna flip through a few of these. That is our wonderful Dr. Krupa, along with the CEO of FACT, Ms. Michelle Watson. And these are some of our friends from other trusts around the state. And this is Kyle Batuk. He is the Senior Vice President of Economic Opportunity and Early Learning for the Florida Chamber Foundation. He was one of our guest speakers. And one of our guest speakers who is very fond of Escambia Children's Trust because of our community partner school. This is the Vice President of Community Impact at Children's Home Society, Mr. Jarvis Wheeler. And this is another one of our guest speakers, Dr. Deepesh Nevzaria. He is a pediatrician and professor of pediatrics at the School of Medicine and Public Health at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. So a few of the takeaways that we got from this conference is that we're still very new compared to other trusts across the state. And the great things that they are doing, it takes time. And you know, we are moving day by day, and we're taking our time to be able to get to where they're at through their experience. And all of the trusts in the state realize that children are the main focal point of the work that we are doing. And with that being said, it's a collaboration, not a competition through trust throughout the state. And it's just, like I said, it's refreshing to be able to have colleagues to reach out to, and they have the experience and you can gain knowledge from them. And what we are doing is important to the future of our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, please. How are we on target compared to others that maybe you didn't have that information? How are we doing compared to others that are probably at our stage of of implementing the Children's Trust? Was there a way to know how others were doing?
I will let Dr. Krupa answer that question.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. So just historically, there have been only 3 new Children's Services Councils in the past 20 years. So Alachua was 2018, and you have their report. That's their first report that you have in your hands that we passed around. And then we're tied with Leon. We passed on the same day. But our story is that we have 2 less years. We only have a 10-year sunset. Leon has 12 years. So we're moving at a much faster pace because we took those 2 years off. So to execute 28 contracts over $9 million in 9 months, no one has ever done that before. And so some of our growing pains that we're experiencing and the tensions are coming from that.
Okay, thank you.
But I just had one question. When you said we're moving from basic accountability to sustainability, what do we mean by that?
That is from Dr. Krupa's presentation, so I'll let her answer that as well.
Yeah, so sort of like what the changes are in the OST contract you just approved, where we've got quality measures baked in and consequences if providers aren't hitting their targets. So the first year, we didn't have that in a lot of our contracts because we're just building relationships, getting our systems started, defining what quality means. And as we do the work, gain experience, build those partnerships, we're moving toward what outcomes look like, especially outcomes at scale.
So I guess, Kim, then I guess, moving from accountability to sustainability, how are these organizations or providers going to be sustainable long after this public funding is released? I mean, I guess that would be a part of
What
the
we're
program.
requiring. Yeah, something that we're baking in. They have to explain it in response to an RFP, and now we're going to be monitoring their sustainability plans moving forward.
Right. And Kim, I'm glad you said that. To me, that's important because if I fund you for an after-school program for children ages 3 to 7, 3 to 8, and I fund you on a 3-year contract, what happens when he becomes a teenager, which is, as we know, the middle school is the most dynamic? How do you sustain those programs without our funding? So, I mean, I say all that to say, is that a part of the metrics, is a part of the conversation with the providers?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And a lot of the providers are tracking like delinquency data, so justice-involved youth, not necessarily academic outcomes. So that's something that and when you look at the ranking of 56, youth encounters with the justice system is a major area of why we're ranked so low in the state, because a lot of other counties are improving that outcome, and we're not. Ours is getting worse.
Right, and I would think the most important thing that we're implementing stricter measurements, to measure those outcomes of sustainability that's in line with all of our strategic plans. I know Mona did a plan, so I would hope that if we're looking at outcomes and sustainability, that we're aligning them with our strategic plan that aligns with our overall mission.
Yeah, it all has to work together. Right, and that's what Michael meant with the implementation plan, not just to have a strategic plan, but what does it mean to implement it and operationalize it? We look forward to having Ms. Cannon help us figure that out.
Kim, is that why y'all added that into the contracts, that they have to provide a sustainability plan?
Yes, and that came from a board meeting in November that Meredith worked on all these changes for us and did a beautiful job in articulating what all of this would mean, like kind of codify some of our ideas.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael, one of my former ball players, it's good to see you doing good work. Now you got that big-time job, you never come referee anymore.
Thank you, Ms. Bush. I understand you have something to report from legal.
I do, yes, thank you, Chair. So you may recall back in August, we reached out to the Office of Attorney General seeking direction related to a proposal from the city of Pensacola and a request to fund the purchase of real property. We received a response late December, a written opinion by the Attorney General, which states that the trust is not allowed to purchase the building and donate it to the city of Pensacola as was proposed. So there was a question raised as to some language within that opinion, because the way the opinion reads, it states that Florida statutes 125-901 subsection 2, paragraph 3 is the sole place in the statute that allows the trust to fund outside agencies. And the city of Pensacola, according to the Attorney General opinion, is not an agency eligible to receive funding. However, yesterday I spoke with the author of that opinion to get clarification and confirm how this may impact our out-of-school time awards. What she stated was that the opinion is very narrowly tailored and construed only to address the question of the purchase of real property. I do know throughout the state, other trusts fund municipal programs. I've shopped it with several attorneys. I've talked to several attorneys, and reasonable minds really do differ as to the implications of the opinion on the out-of-school time programming. So I feel that a reasonable interpretation is that the opinion only impacts the purchase of real property, and the trust would be able to continue as we have funded the city of Pensacola's out-of-school time programs. That was not my initial take, but short of seeking another Attorney General opinion on that specific question, that's where we're at. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you for clarifying and following up with them. I know that was a long ask ago, and I know we had questions pertaining to that, so I appreciate you researching that. Did we have any other, anything to add from the staff regarding this item? Any questions from the board? Clarification?
No, I did reach out to the city because they had reached out to me regarding it. So I did reach out to the city and let them know that we were okay to keep proceeding as we have been.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Mayor, I want to thank you because you really gave a great clarification of that, and thank you for all your help. That was very beneficial. And now that you can keep your job now, you got $1.5 million.
Before we adjourn, are there any other further public comments or comments from the board?
Yeah, Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
This is for the board. I think that, I mean, for me, I feel like we need to get together and have a workshop, and not from a dais, but sit around a table and really look at what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're going to go forward in terms of where we can make the biggest impact with these dollars. And we've got our plan. We've got a new director that can lead us. But I really think we need to drill down and focus on some key points that are really going to move the needle in this community. And I just want to open that up to see if anybody else feels that way and perhaps would allocate some time to have an open workshop, and because we really rarely have time to discuss these issues in depth.
I think that's a great idea.
I will tell you that Ms. Cannon had already mentioned that to me, that as soon as everything went through, if it did, that was the first thing she wanted to do, was to have a workshop with the board, and let's, circle the wagons and see what we're going to do here.
Okay, thank you. So we'll just wait on her, maybe leadership to, okay.
Any other comments?
I agree with Mr. Peden, and I'm happy to allocate any time that we can to make that work.
Thank you. If no other business or comments, the meeting is being adjourned at 6:18. Thank you.